Hogstye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hogstye. Dave is drinking himself a nice, delicious Wawa coffee, I see. Wawa
latte.
coffee. It's a latte.
Latte.
Fancy
Yes.
pants Dave. Late
Yeah,
night
I'm not a-
latte.
When are you bougie, Dave?
I'm not a big fan of their coffee, but their lattes are pretty good. They're
He's
okay.
drinking a gas station latte, Steve. That's
For the
not...
benefit of those of us who
Yes.
are fortunate enough not to have to live in the Philadelphia, New Jersey area, Wawa is a semi-local gas station chain, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah,
if I recall.
started right here in Folsom, PA, in Delco.
Yeah.
Very first store.
So I'm assuming that means it's a crappy gas station if it's native to Philadelphia, right?
Well, actually, no. They're actually fairly nice compared to some of the ones you could stop at. But when you look at the major Buc-ee's roadside stop ones,
Yeah.
Wawa is horrendous compared to them.
Well,
Well,
Buc-ee's...
nothing compares to Buc-ee's, though. You
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah, you're
compare
right
anything
about
to
that.
Buc-ee's.
Absolutely.
And they just built a Buc-ee's in Virginia. Now, it's like
Yep.
4 hours for me. I'm not driving 4 hours just to go to Buc-ee's.
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah.
Their brisket sandwich
Oh,
is
it's
almost
outstanding.
worth it.
Yeah.
It's almost worth
their
that
food's
drive.
actually good. Their
You
Yes,
know
it
what's
is.
really interesting about the Buc-ee's? Their original idea was to have the I saw one of their executives talking about this. Their original idea was to have the very nicest women's bathrooms because their thought was the guys couldn't care less.
Yeah.
You know, they'll do anything anywhere, but the women want nice bathrooms, and so then they made it really nice, and then they built the whole store around it.
That's
You know,
interesting.
yeah.
And you know what? And the Buc-ee's we stopped on the way down to and up from Florida. We hit every one of them on the East Coast. And I'll tell you what, man,
All
not
three.
that I would ever eat my food while going to the bathroom in the Buc-ee's if I had to. I absolutely would if I had to.
The
That's how
gross thought
clean
of
they
the
are.
day, but okay.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, man.
I just appreciate they also pay their people very well, which is why they have high quality. You know,
Mhm.
like
By comparison's sake,
yes,
at least, yeah.
people. No one makes minimum wage at a Buc-ee's. They're all making like
No one's going to get
25
rich
bucks.
at making
Yeah.
at a Buc-ee's either.
The
but-
managers make like 200K of each store. It's pretty
Yeah.
good. They
But
make a
I
good
will say
living.
this:
Yeah.
I know there'd be nobody on the management team that ever listened to this from Buc-ee's. But if by some chance someone knows somebody that knows someone that's part of Buc-ee's, do not open one in Delco. Do not. I know they're doing one in Pennsylvania. Stay away from the Delco area because they will bring Buc-ee's down. Delco brings everything down.
I would say, stay away from Philadelphia, period, anywhere near Philadelphia. Now, you're talking to someone who at one point, being the real estate person in Texas that I am, did know the Buc-ee's people. So if I get a chance to come around them again, I will pass that on.
Yes.
Stay away.
No
What is
Delco.
it? Delco. Okay,
No
Yeah.
got it.
Delco.
Delco is
Got it.
like a suburban county. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's
Again,
it's
I
one
would
nice
say
one.
let's
Yeah.
just stay away from Philadelphia, period. 'Cause
There's
it's
no
gonna
room-
get burnt down, or
There's
who
no
knows.
room in Philadelphia for a Buc-ee's. It would take
Yeah.
up all of like the historic city, part of the city, to build one Buc-ee's. You'd
Right.
have to tear down the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall. It would be a whole thing.
Now you want to go all the way up to like Bethlehem and up that way?
Sure. Oh yeah, yeah,
Go for it. Have at it.
yeah.
No
And
Delco.
for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Buc-ee's is a gigantic, ginormous
Mhm.
Texas-based chain of gas stations. When I say ginormous, it's the size of like almost a half of a department store.
Right. If you were to take a small Walmart, combine it with a Sheetz or a Wawa, and then combine that with like a large gas station, because they have like 40 gas tanks
Yes,
gas pumps at every
Yeah.
Buc-ee's or something ridiculous.
we down here in Texas are very proud of Buc-ee's.
You should be. It's one of the best things that's ever come out of Texas.
It's awesome.
It actually might be the only good thing that's ever come out of Texas.
You're not gonna offend me. I'm not really from Texas.
No, I
You
know.
You can say what
I'm
you
not.
want.
I'm not trying to offend you. I'm trying to offend any other Texans who might listen. I don't care
Well,
about that.
you might do that. They're very proud of Texas. I think Texas is a fine state, but I have no allegiance to really any
No,
state.
no. I would say
No.
Buc-ee's, and then since we have a Shipley's in DC, Shipley's is the other good thing that's come out of Texas now. So, and Whataburger sucks, or
Whataburger is
Yeah.
okay. It's average.
Whataburger is absolutely terrible. I had it once. I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
There's
All
your
right.
opinion.
All right. So this is not
Speaking of absolutely terrible.
Speaking of absolutely terrible, are we going to talk about the Chargers? Is that why we're
Yeah,
speaking?
that's what I was about to say. You didn't let me finish.
Let's talk about that game. We all thought it would be a loss. We all thought, going cross country, Jaden's going to be rusty. No Terry, no Noah Brown. But what happened? After going down 10 early, Washington comes back 27 unanswered points. Best win of the season, without a question. You have a huge win against a good opponent like that on the road. Huge win. Steve, why don't we start with the numbers, and then we got a lot of little sub-stories to talk about here.
The numbers. We never do the numbers. Okay, so Jaden Daniels was 15 for 26, 231 yards, one touchdown, was sacked once, had a quarterback rating of exactly 100.0, and 15 of 26 is something like 59% or something.
Yeah, not a great day accuracy-wise.
We'll get to him. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt was the leading rusher. He was 14 for 111 yards rushing, averaged 7.9 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns along with 27. Jaden Daniels, 8 for 39. Chris Rodriguez is 5 for 7. Jerry McNichols, 1 for 6. Receiving-wise, Deebo Samuel led the way, 8 for 96, 1 touchdown along with 22 on 11 targets. Luke McCaffrey, 1 reception, 2 targets, 50 yards. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had 2 receptions for 39 yards. Jalen Lane, 1 for 16. Jeremy Nichols, 1 for 12. John Bates, 1 for 9. Tay Martin, 1 for 9. Zach Ertz had 1 target, 0 targets, 0 receptions. Chris Moore, 1 target, 0 receptions. And then for the Chargers side, Justin Herbert was 22 for 29, 166 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, sacked 4 times, quarterback rating of 86.3. Trey Lance came in and sucked for 1 series. Also, after the game was out of reach, Herbert was the leading rusher, 4 for 60. Omarion Hampton was 12 for 44. It's 3.7 yards per carry. It goes down from there. Keenan Allen was 5 for 58. On receiving yards, Quentin Johnson was 4 for 40. And I guess I missed Washington's defense. So the sacks, Von Miller had 1.5. Jacob Martin had 0.5. Johnny Newton had 1. And am I missing one? So yes, Dorrance Armstrong had 2. And that is stats.
Right. There we go on the stats. I assume we got to talk about the offense first because that was the bigger storyline here. They came out flat. If we're being honest, they didn't do a whole lot in the first quarter and a half till they suddenly Jaden Daniels says enough with these stupid pink cleats, pops those things off, puts on his normal cleats, and starts playing like old Jaden Daniels. It's all about getting rid of the pink cleats, apparently. I know, charity, breast cancer, get rid of them. Pink doesn't look good with our uniforms anyway. Get rid of all of it.
I think in all sincerity, I think the sequence at the end of the first half, in which Washington had a lousy drive, out of the end zone. Right. They had to punt. The Charger, Ladd McConkey returns a punt for a touchdown. The touchdown gets called back for roughing the punter, and after that, everything changed. Right. The Luke McCaffrey play. I think if this season ends up turning around and looking anything remotely like last season, I think we can look back and say that sequence at the end of the first half of the Chargers game was the spark that ignited everything. It might not prove to be true, but if it does, I think that's what, because when that especially when that penalty got called back, like everything changed. Yeah. Or when the touchdown rather got called, everything changed.
Yeah, so I think it was that and the turnover, I think, that preceded that, right?
That's fair. Yeah, fair. But I thought, to me, and I know that's the other perspective on it, to me it was that punt, if the punt touchdown had counted, everything.
That game's probably over.
To stop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that game, you're going to have trouble coming back momentum-wise after that.
I think that is the moment that changed everything for this.
I think you might have a good point there. They turned it around, and they did what I think we kind of have been seeing in the 2 games without Jaden. the team finally has started becoming a run-first team. We had some issues with their running numbers, and Steve, you did a great breakdown of their rushing stats on Twitter before the game.
Right.
This was all pre-Bill's big performance,
Yeah. So
obviously.
you want me to go into this? So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was bored on a Sunday morning,
Right.
and I started thinking it because we had this discussion on this show about Chris Rodriguez versus Krosky Merritt, and their effectiveness, and the large number of long runs and etc. So I started digging into this, and what I saw, and again, this is Alex said, this is pre-Chargers game.
Right.
They were second in the NFL in yards per carry, 5.9. They were only 17th in carries, 28th in time of possession. That's what really got me. Why do you, they're so good in rushing, is your time of possession so low?
Right.
And then 12th in first downs by rush, which is okay, but the dog's going crazy out here.
Yeah. Just we'll roll with the dog.
It's
You're
white
doing
noise,
your
we're
part.
good.
Yeah.
All right, we'll roll with the dog.
It's all
Fine.
white noise.
Okay. All right. So Krosky Merritt and Rodriguez prior to the Chargers game had combined for 47 carries, 270 yards, 5.7 yards per carry. And actually, in spite of the fact we were talking about their long runs, they've really only had 3 runs over 15 yards between the two of them. And so taking that out, that leaves 44 carries for 164 yards, so it's only 3.4 yards per carry. That stinks, right? That's what Dave and I were talking about. But I drilled down into this a little bit farther, and I realized that Krosky Merritt had 29 carries for 172 yards, 5.9 yards per attempt. He had 15, but here's the key: he had 15 carries for five or more yards, and then 2 more than 15 yards. If you remove the 2 big yards, because remember we were talking about median versus average,
Right.
and so removing the really big ones gets us more to the median, and so removing that left him with 27 carries for 114 yards. It's 4.2 yards per carry. And again, the key is he's got more than half of his runs were more than 5 yards.
Yeah.
And because in my head I think 4.5 yards per carry is what you shoot for, because that's a first down, right? Okay, then you go to Chris Rodriguez. 5.4 yards per carry, I'll take that all day long. 18 carries for 98 yards. Only 4 of his carries for 5 or more yards. And then 1 over 15. If you remove the 1 over 15, that left 17 carries for 56 yards, 3.3 yards per carry. Completely ineffective, aside from the one long run. So my conclusion out of this was, if you want to boost the time of possession, you want to get more first downs, you got to just hand Krosky Merritt
run the ball.
hand him the ball. He's the number 1 back. It's not a running back by committee anymore. Let him do it, and if it fails, they'll come up with something else. And that turned out to be fairly sage advice that Washington kind of took it and ran with it.
Dan Quinn was scrolling through Twitter and said, "What is this long monologue of tweets?"
In reality, they're seeing what I saw.
Yeah, of course.
And I published all this in particular because this is sort of contrary to what we were talking about and what we had assumed. And it turns out that Krosky Merritt has been much more effective. He's just been dragged down.
So
by Rodriguez.
we because
the
we're
overall
stats
numbers
nerds,
have been dragged down by Rodriguez.
We're stats nerds, especially you and I, Steve.
Yeah.
To me, I think you're looking at the mean is good. I've been wondering if you got to start looking at it almost like a bell curve of.
Yes.
Like, how many runs does he have that are 1 yard versus 2 yards?
Well, that's what I'm getting at with median.
Right.
But his bell curve overall much better than the other running backs. Even because you got to count. Yes, he does have a couple big runs in there. So his bell.
And that's a good thing, by the way.
Yes, his bell is curving in the right direction.
And I left out, for those wondering, Jeremy McNichols out of this because he just doesn't have enough carries for it to be statistically relevant. And truth be told, I mean, before you just condemn Chris Rodriguez, 17 or 18 carries is not enough either. Okay.
Right.
Minimum statistical relevance is 20.
Mm-hmm.
Like a stat nerd would tell you that it's 20. And so it could change, and I'm not wiping him out. I'm just saying right now the tendency is you got to play Krosky Merritt.
Yeah.
Which they did.
And I think you're still going to need to rotate, obviously.
Yeah. I think
not as much though. You put him in as the number 1 back.
Yeah, man. The most impressive part of Krosky Merritt's game that we saw on display in this Charger game is is even all of his, well, not all of his longer runs came either running to the outside or big gaping holes. The one thing that he has been displaying so far this whole season, he's had excellent vision. He's got a one-step quick burst. He gets very skinny through the holes, and you saw that multiple times in this game. I mean, there were just some holes where the holes really weren't there, and he had to get skinny. And he got skinny, got through there, and he would get like 7 yards or even 9 yards on those runs. And there was somebody, I forget who it was. Like Matt, it was like Matt TV, whatever. He does things for the Commanders, and he broke down almost every single one of the runs he did. And that's exactly what he was doing all game long. When the holes weren't there, he would very quickly redirect and take it and take it to the other side. He would take I forget what play it was where it was with Derwin James had him in the backfield and he scampered out for I think it was like a 12-yard gain, but Derwin James had him almost dead to rights, and he recognized the hole wasn't there to his left, and then Derwin James was coming off onto his right side, so he took a step to the inside, and then he took a burst right up the line and came right off of right off the back foot of Ben Sinnott on that run going towards the right sidelines. We have not had a running back that would recognize that and adjust to that and have that one quick step burst that he had all game long. He's been doing it all season even for the limited carries he's had. That's what's been impressing me the most. Now, is it sustainable? Is he going to be able to?
Well, that's another question. I mean, you can't expect this kind of performance every week. If he does, the guy's going to be an all-pro. Okay, and it's unlikely. I mean, this is maybe the high watermark. We'll see. But my point was that overall, over the 4 games prior to the Chargers game, he has been legitimately effective. More effective than I thought it was going to be. I really thought it was going to, because I didn't know how it was going to come out when I was doing all that. For me in the stats thing, I never know how it's going to come out. I'm never out to prove anything. I'm out to just figure out what the answer is. And
Despite
I really thought
Steve's contrary in nature, he does take analytics very seriously like that.
I do,
right.
and I never have a conclusion in mind when I'm doing these things, for you guys. And I really thought it was going to come out and show that both of them were really affected by the long runs, but that just isn't the case.
Yeah. And for all those that were calling me out and retweeting a post I had in August where I said this fan base is setting themselves up for potential disappointment because of how high they were putting him on a pedestal entering this season, which I revolved my column around too as well, because I have no shame in what I posted. But like a column that you posted, Steve, talking about his time in college, the defenses or lack thereof he went against, we were all justified to have that point of view of pull the reins back a little bit and let's see what he can do, because even though he averaged I think it was like 6.4 yards a carry in college.
That's pretty average. That's pretty standard though for NFL, for running backs to get drafted into the NFL. I've done a lot of stats analysis. I'm telling you, I mean, the 6.5 yards a carry is not that abnormal. I think you were entirely justified in what you said back then. He's proven wrong. Great.
Right.
He's proving that he's better than that. To his credit, outstanding.
I'm really impressed mostly with his vision in this running game.
And by the way, all our point wasn't that he's going to suck. The point was it's not totally reasonable for you to assume this guy is going to be great when based on what we've seen. That was what the point we were making. Right. And that's still legit. We said the same thing about Brandon Coleman, and we were right, about it. Last year I'm talking about. We told you, is it likely he's going to walk in and be a left tackle? No.
Right.
Could it happen? Sure. But is it likely? No. And it didn't.
Right. He's a quality average lineman at least, which is still great for a third round pick.
My point is, like, we looked at his background and his film and what he did in college State. Is it possible? Sure. Is it likely? No. I want to get to, but we've done run game. I really want to get to Jane Daniels in this.
Okay, we can get to that. Yeah.
Yeah, because for me, and I put this in my takeaways column this week. I wouldn't say he was a weak point necessarily, because he does kind of energize the team and sometimes in a way that others just can't, and he did that.
Sure.
But from a statistical perspective, 58% completion percentage. 15 for 26.
Mhm.
I thought he didn't totally look like his 2024 self.
Oh, clearly not. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, the running game is what has invigorated the team. It hasn't been Jane
Right.
Daniels in any of the 3 games he's played. And something has to change. I don't know what it is, but he just hasn't gotten it
Well,
together. And that's the point I wanted. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't himself.
well,
That's what I'm saying.
well, I think yeah, but we kind of talked about this in the off season, because you had people thinking he's going to be in the MVP running this whole year, and
Mhm.
people knocked the fact that there could be a sophomore slump or some sort of a setback.
Right.
It happens to everybody, almost every quarterback in their second year, in the most part. He was going to take a step back to a point because defensive coordinators had the tape on him. It was going to happen. It shouldn't be something to where we should be pushing the panic button or anything like that. Not that I'm saying you're saying that, Steve, but it's just,
I'm
right
not
now we
saying
have
that.
to, right, but we have to understand he was going to have a step back. It was going to happen regardless, whether you are too naive to understand that or not. That's not my problem. But the thing is, how are they going to adjust, and how is he and Cliff Kingsbury going to adjust going forward?
Right.
That's where we're going to see what Jaden Daniels, what kind of a quarterback he's going to be going forward, and we should start seeing that over the next few weeks. And that is where now, if he keeps regressing, maybe we panic a little bit, maybe. But I don't, myself personally, I think he's going to be okay. But you got
Mhm.
to be patient and give it time.
Here's where I understand he's not putting up big yardage numbers. Uh, I don't think that the team's figured out the passing game because let's be honest, Mariota didn't put up good passing numbers either. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I find it the positives in what we're seeing. I think we're seeing a lot more game manager ability this year with him. Like he's doing a much better. Last year it was, hey Jaden, go win us the game. This year, I think they're actually relying on him to manage it, make sure that he's not making mistakes, because he hasn't had a turnover yet. In these 3 games,
He's always been good with turnovers.
he's always
Right.
been good, but 0 is better than what he had the year before.
Right.
9, obviously. Statistically, he should at least have 1 by now, based off his average last year.
Well, I'll
You
say
know,
2 things. One, Texans fans will tell you they thought C.J. Stroud was going to be the next All-Pro,
sure,
after his rookie year, and it all fell apart. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but that's an example of it not going right.
right.
Um, but we were. I think it's very fair to say one, Washington has a harder schedule this year, and two, they
Absolutely.
were
Right.
like you said, they were always going to get a better read on the guy. That was always gonna happen.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
I mean, it might work out, but I forget the main point I was going to say is I thought Tom Brady, of all people, said something very insightful as he was the analyst,
Yeah.
and he mentioned that he had talked to Daniels that week, and they had talked about Daniels sliding. Remember
Right.
this in the
Hmm.
Yeah.
broadcast?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Because last year Daniels was, I remember writing that up about him on his college film analysis. The guy was getting hit everywhere and everything, and it was Brady said Brady told Daniels to slide, and all of a sudden in that game he was sliding more than he ever has.
Yeah.
And that's the future. You can't I forget which one of you said it. I mean, it can't be playmaker all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
There's got to be a little bit of game manager, and take the 8-yard run instead of trying to leap over someone for
Yeah.
11 yards and getting hit in the face. And he
Now,
was better at that in this game.
I think you need to know when you turn on the you got to win the game mode. Like there's
Right.
a switch in your head that say, all right, it's third down. Don't slide a yard before. This is where you might need to take a dive to get the first down. Like that switch is still going to be in your head. But like I agree, he did do a better job of protecting himself this week.
Maybe Brady really did get to him.
Yeah,
Maybe
Maybe.
Brady sunk in.
And
I thought
also
he
the one thing with Jaden Daniels, the one thing more times than not, when he's had to make a clutch throw beyond 10 yards,
Mhm.
he's been accurate, he's been right on point, and he's been placing it to where only the receiver had to play on the ball. I think that's also an important factor to also keep in mind because as he irons everything else out and the game starts slowing down for him even more and he starts adjusting to what the defenses are doing, once all that gets back in the line, if it does, but if all that comes back in the line with his ability to make the right read and throws when it matters the most, he'll be right back to that dangerous quarterback again. But we got to be patient and watch all that to happen. So,
and we shouldn't be lost on anybody that Washington's receiver room is a bit of a train wreck right now.
It is.
With Terry McLaurin, one, not playing well when he was in, and two, out now, and then Noah Brown, who's the number 2, out. I mean,
Right.
yeah, look, McCaffrey's look better, great, but they're playing, practice squatters, and they don't have what they wanted to have, and that does matter.
right.
And I know, like Alex, you were talking about, should the Chris Moore experiment be over and all of that, and I was
Right.
joking
I was
about you
actually
can't have
just
an
about to.
experiment. You can't
Yeah.
have an experiment when it's a practice squad play. I mean, but that's your point is that they
Yeah.
had to play him, and it's
Yes.
not gonna. Obviously it's not gonna go well, and so I think that factors into the calculus.
And by the way, yet another week, I believe he had close to 40 snaps on offense, Chris Moore, which
And he dropped
a
a
lot.
crucial.
that's a
He
lot.
dropped a crazy touchdown pass too.
Yeah.
Beautifully placed by Daniels. He threw it right where only he could play it. And what does he do? He just flat out drops it.
Yeah. Yeah. That it's a little annoying when you see that one, right? Like, let's be honest.
But I don't know what anybody was expecting when you bring a practice squad receiver in. What you guys were expecting?
Well,
I was
out there.
I'm expecting a guy who's been in the league. He's been in the league for a few years now.
Mhm.
I'm expecting a guy as a veteran presence, to be able to at least be consistently good at something. Maybe not great, but something. But he's not good at anything. That's my problem with him.
Well, maybe that's why he was signed to a practice squad in like week
you're
3
right.
or whatever,
Yeah.
though.
Yes. Yeah.
I have to
get you.
assume the reason he is the number 2 receiver by default has more to do with things like run blocking. And like there are those guys who
Well, size and where
yeah.
he fits. He's
Yeah.
not going to be a Z receiver,
Right. Right.
So that's probably why. But
Yeah,
don't
he
worry.
had to fill
I
that
mean,
Noah Brown role.
now Washington has a guy who named himself Chosen, so all is well. Don't worry.
Right. Oh, I just did the quick math. Luke McCaffrey is on pace now for a 500-yard season, which, all right, that's not 1,000 yards. It's not great, but that's significant improvement versus last year.
Nobody should have wrote him off. Like we said,
right.
I mean, the guy was a quarterback at Rice.
Right. If he could be that one big play a game guy, that's something.
Even if he's just a solid possession guy that has 40 receptions for 550 yards every year, that's productivity.
Right.
Exactly. Might not be great, but he is a 3rd-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
In my draft analysis, even 3rd-round picks the odds of them succeeding are low.
Right.
Well, also too, keep in mind he had 92 kickoff returns this week. Last week, I think he was close to 150 kickoff return yards.
I mean, he didn't have 92 kickoff returns.
I meant yards. But either way. But I mean, he's impacting the game.
Right.
I mean, kind of like how Brian Mitchell did back in the day right now, Brian Mitchell didn't rack up a ton of rushing yards, a great rushing yards per carry average, but what he was an impact as a whole, what he brought value to the team, and that's what you're kind of seeing what McCaffrey can bring. He could be a nice, good 3, number 4 receiver, and a guy who can be your primary kick returner, and that's great value in this league.
Well, actually, Brian Mitchell did have a pretty darn good yards per carry.
His time at running back.
Yeah, he averaged over 14 years 5.1 yards per carry, but he just didn't get a lot of carries.
Right. Yeah.
Right. He I think he had 4,000 rushing yards or something like it's not it's not a small number, but it's not huge over that period of time. Because he was never like a starting running back.
He only had 2,000 yards rushing.
Really?
It was 2,000. Yeah.
I thought it was that. Wow.
No.
Okay. Huh.
No.
Okay.
But so that's an example of a guy who obviously made a Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Made a Hall of Fame level impact. But he was the reason why he could is he wasn't the every down John Riggins 25 carries a game guy.
Right.
Or Ernest Biner. Pick your poison.
All right. Well, I think we kind of covered both sides of the offense. Let's talk about the defense real quick. Similar to the offense, started out slow, started out rough, a lot of mistakes. You had that awful mistake by Sandersill jumping off sides on a field goal to a 4-point mistake, basically, because it gave him a
that was kind of
touchdown.
bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. But after that initial first quarter and a half, they clamped down. They made their adjustments, and they played well.
I forgot to read the tackle stats when we did stat. I'm not going to read them all, but just know that Bobby Wagner yet again led the team in tackles with
Right.
14, and then Sandersill and Quan Martin had 9.
But McGee showed up too this week, which was interesting.
I noticed
Yeah.
it's almost like they're doing to him this year, last few games, what they did to Brandon Coleman for the first half of last year. They're starting to bring him in certain situations, give him a little more snaps, because the one thing he still has to control is that he gets his pursuit angles and his speed. He can tend to almost run past the play sometimes. He's really, really fast. And he has to kind of control that. But more times than not, he was in position. He helped on that goal line stand right down there, redirected Aaron Hampton the way he did. And he looks like he could be, at minimum, could mold into a nice depth piece for this roster so far.
I thought the big picture on this was at the front. This was the defensive front seven that we all wanted to see. They were energized. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They had Justin Herbert under significant amount of pressure. They didn't allow a ton of rushing yardage. They looked like they were in control, and they looked like they were much more energetic. Remember at the end of the Falcons game, we all said they looked old and slow. At least I said that, and they didn't look old and slow in this game. At least in the front seven, they didn't. And so I thought it was a much, much better game. And I think we'd be amiss in not talking about. I don't know which one of you found this. Looks like it was Alex. Dorrance Armstrong, man.
That was the tweet I sent you. Yeah.
Was that with you? Okay.
I think it was Dave. Yeah. I
Dave.
saw it too, but yeah, he's showing up.
The top 6 leaders in sacks: Nick Bonito with the Broncos, Byron Young with the Chargers, and then you got Dorrance Armstrong, Brian Burns, Aiden Hutchinson, Josh Sweat with the Cardinals, all at 5. Who would have thought Dorrance Armstrong would have been at 5 sacks by now, and it's near the top?
Right. This is kind of where I kind of assumed he would be for the season, and he's already there. So
that's exactly. I would have guessed like 5 or 7 or whatever on the season. Yeah, definitely.
Which is fine for what you're paying him and all that. So he's out playing the contract early.
Is it possible that the scouting room knows more than we do?
Maybe.
Maybe.
That's still up for debate. That's still up for debate.
They still signed Matt Gay. Although Matt Gay has been better too.
I was gonna say
since his last miss, he's actually been very good. Actually,
he's made 8 in a row. I think is what it is now.
Yeah.
Is that what it is now?
Yeah. So
now, correct me if I'm wrong, but does it seem like these last couple games that you've seen Joe Witt? Now, granted, not necessarily the start of the game, but usually either heading into the second quarter or in the second quarter is where you start seeing him dialing up. Various stunts, and he's starting to bring the corners in more often. He's starting to dial up more elaborate and exotic blitz, almost like what Dallas did when he was there with Dan Quinn, when Dan Quinn was defensive coordinator. It's almost like Dan Quinn kind of sat down with him and say, listen, Dallas, we've got to do this here. And I'm seeing him more and more starting to bring the defense with more schematic style stunts and blitzes, blitz packages that he wasn't doing the first few weeks of the season.
It certainly was different in the Charger game. Yes. And this is sort of what I was getting. You said it more artfully than I did, but that's kind of what I was getting at with the defensive front seven stuff. Right. They were just more energetic. It was schemed better. They played better. It just looked like a different defense. And part of it, I think was scheme. And Joe Witt got a ton of criticism in the media and in the fans and all of that for being kind of plain vanilla. That was better. I don't know if the secondary was a lot better, but the front seven was better.
The one thing I did notice real quick is that when Jordan McGee was on the field, he seems to move him around quite a bit. and he really does a lot to try to utilize his speed and his quickness. So that's been that was pretty interesting for me to see in this game.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, look, I think, yeah, the passing game or the defensive backs have not been great still. They didn't really get too exploited by any one player in this game. So, like,
No, they didn't.
take
Keenan
take
Allen didn't go crazy.
no one went crazy. You know, they had the one guy got a touchdown early, but that was it. That was the only real
Yeah.
play. Was because I mean their biggest play was really just that run from scrimmage or in the first drive, right? There was no other huge play that I'm missing.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't think they played great.
There were two consecutive pass plays to open up the second quarter that got called back because of their offensive right tackle. I think it was Shipley. I think his name.
Right.
One was a false start, another one was a holding, and both of them went beyond 15 yards. So the secondary got bailed out. Those two. But on the most part, I thought the secondary played a much better game. And Lattimore, I don't think he was even really abused once in this game, to be honest with you. Not that I noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Washington said, "Hey, remember what they were doing a lot more the last few weeks? Let's do that to Benjamin St. Jude's on the other side this week."
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they went after him, man. They really did.
Yep.
All right, look, we should wrap
Yeah,
up
so we need
this
to move
recap
on.
and talk about some of the other stuff. Let's do game balls.
Okay.
Steve, who are you giving
Me?
to on the Chargers this week?
Oh, I think no, not this week. I think Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt deserves a game ball. You know, he
That's
had
a bold
150
choice.
Well, what do you want me to lie? I
Yeah.
mean, the guy deserves a game ball.
Right.
I'm fine picking the same
He
guys
was
you
the
do.
player of the week this week, by the way. I don't think we mentioned that.
Yeah.
The NFL player, yeah. And he had 16 touches, 150 yards. You know, in his breakout game maybe. So, and then on the defense, I'm going Dorrance Armstrong for getting 2 sacks.
Okay. Dave?
I mean, I'm sorry, but yeah, I had to go with Krosky-Merritt. There really isn't any other option to go with that one. So I'm with you on that one. And I think I'll go with Sanders still on that interception on the goal line. I know the ball was tipped, but the thing is that even on the original trajectory, Sanders still was already breaking on that ball. So he was at minimum going to deflect that ball anyway, because if you notice, he had to come back off bounds to make the interception. He was already breaking for that ball anyway, so, and he had an outstanding game.
Yeah, no, he really did have everyone. There were a lot of outstanding games. One fact we did not mention that I want to get out there before we move on: Zach Ertz. This was his first game since 2014, November 2014, that he has been held without a catch. So that's kind of crazy. All right. Obviously, I'm giving it to Bill too. Giddy Bill, the guy who squealed talking to Tom Brady after the game. He's getting the game ball. That. Yeah. If you watch that post game interview, there's joy. That's what joy sounds like. And then on defense, I'm gonna go Quan Martin for the forced fumble. You know, I think that was equally a big turnover there.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of good candidates there on defense this week. All right, we have to move on and talk about some other stuff. We got to do our preview against the Bears here. And I want to get to the Mark Sanchez story because that's too big not to get to.
That's why I was trying to move us along.
Yep.
We need to get to it.
Yep. All right. So Bears preview. Washington is playing Chicago on Monday night. Another rematch from last year. There was something that happened, some kind of Hail Mary or something the last time these two teams played, right? Like a big finish that somebody missed.
I didn't miss, that's for sure. Right in front of me.
Yeah. But no, I was thinking their corner. The Bears corner.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't think anybody missed the play.
I was thinking the corner who was jawing with fans on the sideline while the play happened. But yes, all right. So rematch with the Bears. Yeah.
Here's what I think. In some respects, first of all, I think Caleb Williams isn't a terrible quarterback. He's in a bad situation. I don't think they're coached well. They
weren't last year, that's for sure.
No, they weren't last year. They've got a strange roster in some respects. But this game to me is a little bit of a strength on weakness from a Washington standpoint
Mm-hmm.
because the Bears are a terrible rush defense, and as we just talked about, Washington's kind of become a run first team, and so they
Right.
need to lean into that. I mean, the Bears are terrible. They're the worst run defense in the NFL, actually.
Yes.
So there's that. And they're also not a very good run. The Bears are not a very good run team in terms of their offense. They do
Right.
have good receivers. Romo Dunze is their leading receiver. DJ Moore is a quality pro. And so I think the offense, it's run game all day long. And then the defense, it's pressure Caleb Williams because that's when he gets a lot of pressure, that's when things have gone bad for him. And
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have to lean on the passing game because Washington's pretty decent against the run. The Bears can't run very well, and so we need the secondary to perform, and you need to get a significant amount of pressure on Caleb Williams. And the matchups, obviously the big one is Daniels and Caleb Williams.
That's a
You know,
story matchup, though.
that's the
That's
story.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know. And I think you got Marshawn Lattimore versus Romo Dunze. That's a
Mm-hmm.
huge matchup. And then the one that Washington fans will be interested in, Montez Sweat is in this game. Don't forget about him. He's going to be facing off Josh Connerly Jr., who's been largely bad. So that's the one to watch. So that's my thoughts on the Bears.
Yeah. Interesting that DeAndre Swift has not really done well so far running back for the Bears. I was just looking at their numbers. He's only averaging 3.3 per attempt. That's not good. You don't think of DeAndre Swift as that kind of running back. Uh, it is an interesting game for matchups. Washington secondary versus a decent receiver group. I do think that Ben Johnson's coaching up Caleb Williams well. Williams is playing a lot better this year than last
He
year.
is. He's a lot better than last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still not, where Jaden Daniels was last year. But Jaden Daniels isn't where Jaden Daniels was last year either right
I
now.
think
So,
so much of it is the situation and the coaching and the
oh,
roster.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, Tom Brady would have failed if you'd put him in Washington, in like
Right.
2012 or whatever. Not 12,
2001.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Tom Brady would have struggled there. I think, there's been a lot made about what if the Bears had drafted Daniels and I assume then vice versa, Washington would have Caleb Williams. I don't think Daniels would have had the same success last year, not with that terrible coaching staff.
No, that's
Of
my
course not.
point.
Yeah,
It was
probably
the
not,
team
yeah.
was kind of a train wreck.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, conversely, I don't think Caleb Williams could have taken Washington to a championship or the NFC
No,
championship.
but he would have been better
Yep.
because his college
Yep.
film, he was really great in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing they're doing that worries me for this week, they're getting Caleb Williams better at basic football. Not it doesn't always have to be improv with him anymore. He
Right.
can actually just 3 steps and sling it, which he wasn't able to do last year, frankly.
I
So-
think so much of quarterbacks is situational, just generally.
It really is. It really is.
And yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams seems to be a bit of a weirdo, and I don't think he's as mentally stable, shall we say, as Jaden Daniels. So I think you're probably right in saying would he
Mhm.
have been as great as Daniels was last year? No, but I think he would have been much better with a team like Washington, which is
Right.
weird to say considering all
Mhm.
the years of tragedy we've had. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing to watch out for Washington's offense, though, this defense gets some takeaways, man. They already have 7 picks on the year in 4 games. So, like, you gotta be very wary of that part.
Right.
Yeah. So
Now the thing, a couple things I look at is one, in the passing game, the Bears are pretty effective in terms of yards per completion. They're about 10.9 per completion with the average, and our secondary allows an average of 11.8 yards per completion. So that can be and will be a pretty big issue potentially because their offensive line has been pretty good on protecting Caleb Williams, allowing a sack percentage rate of only 5%. And even though our defensive line has been one of the best with having a plus 8% sack rate, the problem is we can't lean on that defensive line against their offensive line consistently because they will protect Caleb Williams plus his mobility because he can extend the plays as well. So that's why our run offense and ball control is going to be vital in this game because if we allow Caleb Williams time in the pocket and to use his legs, what you're going to see this Monday night will be a stark difference to what you saw this past Sunday with our secondary, and we'll probably be going right back to complaining about Lattimore again and so forth. So we got to control the ball on the ground, and we have to try to keep Caleb Williams within the pocket and try to find a way to get pressure on him to not get.
Yeah, you and I were saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the game plan.
Yep. All right. Well, since we want to talk about the Mark Sanchez story, let's kind of make this one a short preview. What are your guys' predictions for final score?
All right. I said I'll go first again, I guess. I have 32-24 Washington in this thing.
Okay.
I do think the Bears maybe will play a little better just because Monday Night Football and everything, but I think Washington kind of rolls with the with the good game from last week, and so I think they are going to put up some points in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking. Yeah, I'm looking at about a 34-21 game myself.
I'm kind of right there with you guys in terms of the overall point spread. I think, but I think this defense of Washington's they played a pretty good offense last week. I think they might start to build some momentum here. So I'm going to say maybe a little bit less on the defensive points allowed, maybe more like 17. But Washington scoring 30, 32 sounds about right too. So that's kind of where I'm at. All right, so we're all going to say win. Yep, in a blackout game, and that's not just because I'll be drinking late night. They're wearing those stupid black uniforms. All right, let's talk about, speaking of blackouts, Mark Sanchez. Oh my God, what the hell did you do, sir?
He ruined his career, is what he did.
He ruined his career.
Yes, he did.
So the wild thing about this is, of course, the real time of news right now. Everyone heard Mark Sanchez was stabbed and assumed he was like just attacked randomly in Indianapolis. And now it came out like Sunday morning, just before like all the shows, the talking head shows were starting, that no, Mark Sanchez was so drunk and or on something else, maybe we don't know, that he picked a fight with a grease truck driver, nearly killed that guy, and that guy stabbed Mark Sanchez and sprayed him with bear mace to, defend himself.
Well, and the grease truck driver was just doing
his job.
Pulling up to this hotel where Sanchez was staying to call the game that he was supposed to call. So he ended up getting charged with a felony. I didn't read it. Something along the lines of felony assault type of charge, and a couple misdemeanors. I think from a legal perspective, he's probably going to plead out of the felony most likely, unless he has a record we don't know about. Which I don't think he does. So he'll probably plead that down to something like misdemeanor battery and public intox and something like that. Odds of him seeing any jail time are slim to none. But that's not really so from a legal perspective, it'll probably be all right. But that's really not the damage. The damage is he's lost his career. I mean, they're not going to put him on the air anymore.
Right.
I don't think. I wouldn't. He's not that special. No. So I think he probably lost the most high-paying career he could have in one fell swoop because he was a moron.
Right. And he was stabbed. I don't think they said how many times, but they said multiple times in the chest during this whole altercation. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this. The guy who he picked a fight with is a 69-year-old man. I don't know if I said how old this dude.
And homie was armed with bear mace and a knife.
Right. Well, if you're a grease truck driver in the middle of the night in downtown Indianapolis, you're just ready for anything.
I guess, but I mean, Mark Sanchez picked a fight with the wrong dude, man.
Right. Well, and also Mark Sanchez tried to steal this guy's truck at one point early.
What in the world is he doing? I mean, first of all, who cares what the grease truck driver's doing? Number one, it's not your job. You're a guest in the hotel.
Right.
Who cares what, let the hotel deal with it, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's just the dumbest thing. I have absolutely no sympathy whatsoever for this guy.
I don't know, man. I've had my fair share of heavy drinking nights. I've never blacked out and or gotten to the point where I didn't want to fight somebody like that. Like, that's just insane.
It's idiotic.
It is.
Yes, it is.
So it makes me think that it's something else involved, not just drinking. But there's nothing to
I don't know. There's no
yeah.
evidence in the record to suggest that.
Not right now
Right.
anyway. I'm
No.
sure that they did a tox screen on him. He went to
There's no doubt they did
yeah.
that.
So whatever he was in his system, we'll find out.
You can get a
yeah.
warrant for that.
Yep.
The cops, they kind of have judges on speed dial a little bit for those sort of things. So they probably did do a tox screen on him.
Well, but I would even think just to treat him medically, if he's been stabbed, you kind of have to know what's in his system.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking from that perspective, not even just the law. The cops would need, I guess, a warrant to get that information.
You would have to get a warrant, need a warrant to get a blood draw. Yeah.
Right.
Unless he volunteered for it, which, why would
it sounds like he was not conscious, so I don't think he could.
Right. Well, that's true. Yeah, you're right. He wasn't conscious.
Yeah. So worst finish to Mark Sanchez's career: his 7-sack performance, 3 interception performance with Washington, his final game, or getting stabbed in the chest to end his TV career.
Well, obviously this, I mean, that was just bad on the field performance. This is,
Yeah, I know.
His reward for being stabbed was he's going to get convicted of a crime and he's going to lose his career.
Right. And maybe, a lot of other stuff too, honestly.
And he'll have to be, by the way, this caused me to think about where Clinton Portis was.
Right.
Is today. And for those of you who are wondering, he's at, I think it was Delaware State. He's coaching with who's the receiver? Jackson. Help me.
Deshaun Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Jackson is a head coach, and Clinton Portis today is a running backs coach at, I think, Delaware State.
Well, good for him. He's trying to put his life back.
Well, because he went to jail, for fraud, which we talked about.
After he got scammed and lost all his money. Yeah.
No, well, he did the scamming.
No. Remember, he got picked up by the Wolf of Wall Street guy.
Yes.
Who
but my
stole
point
all
is
his money.
He didn't get, that wasn't when he got convicted on. He got convicted because they pulled a insurance fraud scam.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole, but that was, for those of you wondering where Clinton Portis is, because they can't put Clinton Portis on preseason games anymore now that he's a felon. So, that's where he is.
Right. I think they were also trying to move on from the Snyder era guys anyway.
Also, because Clinton Portis is dumb as a post, and he sounded dumb as a post.
Yeah.
As a sideline guy.
Yeah. So. I'm sure he's a very good running backs coach. It's the thing he knows.
Of course, but don't let him talk.
Right. Let him say, "Hey, see the hole? Go to the hole."
Yeah. And if you recall, he was the one that was talking about, what's the big deal about Michael Vick fighting,
Yeah, that was not great. That was not great.
Nobody ever said he's a scholar, people.
No. So Mark Sanchez, you're a dummy. Tyreek Hill, you're a dummy too. There's some story out about him committing domestic assault again. We didn't really read it, so we don't need to go into depth on that one.
Well, I don't want to go anyway, but just this is the guy who got accused of punching his pregnant girlfriend in the stomach.
Right.
He's had multiple other criminal convictions, several different domestic violence related charges. He got arrested in the all-time stupidest traffic stop ever, outside the stadium in Miami. Yes, it was his fault. Before anybody gets on me, but this latest round, it turns out there's several different, accusations from this same woman who, for some reason, won't leave him. Which we'll refrain from comment on that, I guess. But he's a scumbag.
Yeah.
I have, and I wish all the worst on him.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna end on some fun topics because those are down.
That wasn't fun. Yeah.
No, those aren't fun topics. Joe Flacco was traded from the Browns to the Bengals. I don't know if you guys both saw that, but that happened. It's a thing that happened. We are officially in the trade window of the NFL. Remember, in the NFL, you can trade up through week 9. That's when this trade window closes. So teams are starting to make some moves. And I don't want to talk about Joe Flacco. No one cares about a guy. Joe Flacco's my age. Don't care that he's playing quarterback. For the the Bengals or the Browns. They're Cincinnati teams. They're irrelevant. I thought it'd be more interesting to ask you guys, what if you were Adam Peters or advising Adam Peters, what are you looking for at the trade window now to get this team, further along? I guess nothing's going to get them over the hump in the trade right now.
No, but I think number one, they're going to be buyers, and so this means they're going to be trading draft picks.
Probably.
So what can they use? What can they look for? One, maybe a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
That would be one thing. Maybe a safety is the other thing. I don't think a ton of their safeties, and they lost Hamilton. They lost
Yeah.
secondary just generally, but maybe safety specifically. So I think I would probably look for wide receiver and safety. Um, they're not. I don't think they're going to get a running back at this point, and if Krosky Merrick works out, they will need one.
Right.
Right now, offensive line, they're not going to get anybody to help. Sam Cosmo will be back in 2 or 3 weeks, so
Right.
that'll help. The linebackers, I mean, they are what they are. Wagner's old, Frankie Lou is old, News 11, but they're going to play. So that's what I think I would look for is maybe a receiver and then secondary, probably a safety.
I'm kind of right on the same page with you on that one. Like for instance, Jacoby Myers out of from the Raiders. He's a good complement piece. He's had over 100 receptions 2 of the last 3 years. He's a good
Mm-hmm.
route runner. I think he can replace Noah Brown, who can't stay on the field. He put him out there with hopefully down the road a healthy McLaurin. I think that would work out very well, and you relegate Luke McCaffrey back to that number 4 role and your primary returner. I think that would help out the offense immensely. And there is a corner for Seattle. I can't think off the top of my head. Ricks, whichever. But he's apparently up and available. I think he'd be a perfect guy to throw in there. If Lattimore still doesn't work out, though, opposite of Trey Amos, or at least, something. But there'll be the 2 guys I would probably look at the most.
I assume you're talking about Rick Woolen is who it is.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I pulled up NFLTradeRumors.com just to look at some names that might be out there.
So you're cheating. Go ahead.
Well, I scrolled down when Dave was like, "Hey, what's that corner?"
Dave did better than me. He came up with a name. I didn't come up with a name.
I wasn't initially going to try and come up with names either. I agree with you guys. If you're looking offensively, wide receivers obviously still you can always use another good wide receiver. There aren't a lot available, honestly. We could, according to this site, we could trade for Curtis Samuel again. Why not? that would make sense.
Actually, Rashid Shaheen out of New Orleans, I think would be a beautiful fit to this receiving core. I mean, he is a major deep threat right there. That would be the perfect fit with Debo up underneath.
I think, and honestly, I think even with Terry McLaurin when he's back healthy, they still need a take off the top deep threat more than anything else. Because Terry's not that. He can do deep threat stuff, but he's not take the top off guy. I don't think an edge rusher is going to be realistic, right? Like
I don't either. That's why I didn't say it.
No.
Yeah. Even though that's always a priority, I just don't think you're going to get an elite edge rusher.
And also, Dorrance Armstrong has been better than expected.
Right. But they could use another legitimate one.
Sure, but they're just not going to roll into Dexter Manley, at the trade deadline.
I'm going to disagree with one thing you said, though, Steve. You were like linebacker is what it is. I think linebacker's where I actually think you could make a good upgrade. I think we have 2 good guys. I think we have 1 good depth guy right now with McGee. I think if they could find a true second outside linebacker, for those situational packages who can play the big role a little, I know we brought in why am I 24? Why am I blanking on his name?
Von Miller.
Von Miller. We bought he's not really a linebacker. He's an edge rusher. I think they could use a true strong linebacker.
I didn't mean to suggest they couldn't use it. I just think they've got 2 veterans. They're going to play.
Right.
And there's always nothing available that I could think of except for maybe Bradley Chubb. I mean, out of Miami maybe, but
yeah. That is part of the problem, right? There's just
maybe they'll trade for Tyreek Hill.
Well, he's on IR. You can't trade for a guy on IR.
I'm just joking.
Yeah. Maybe they'll trade for Trayvon Diggs, right? The Cowboys are giving up, apparently. So that would solve our corner problem, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Give me Diggs for Lattimore, and we'll throw in some kind of draft pick and see what happens. I don't know if you have to pay a higher draft pick if you give them Lattimore or a lower draft pick.
Probably higher.
No Lattimore second round pick. If you add Lattimore, they need a first round pick with it.
Well, Diggs' best season was under Dan Quinn, so I mean,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
Not too crazy. It is
No.
crazy, but
It
the
yeah.
fit
Yeah.
wouldn't be crazy.
Jerry needs money now. We know that. So maybe you're doing it
He's
to
250,000 in the hole, courtesy of giving somebody the bird on
Yep.
national television.
Yep. If you guys didn't see that, Jerry Jones flipped people off, and
Yep.
the NFL fined him for it, which shows the NFL is willing to crack down on Jerry Jones. Right? That's totally what they're doing. They're flexing their muscles, saying, Jerry, you don't know
Yeah.
the league, like you
Yeah,
have.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because 250 grand is flexing some serious muscle to Jerry Jones.
Yeah. Barely pays for a practice squad player anymore.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's a joke of a fine. But
Right.
and also the Cardinals fined their coach Gannon $100K for swatting at one of his players after his player fumbled a ball before running through the end zone, which
It's
I
dumb.
get. Yeah, I don't think you should get fined for that. He might feel bad about what he did, but the guy fumbled before he ran across. It's idiotic. Yeah, all right. So we should wrap up the show. It's that time. Guys, hope that we get to see a win on Monday night. We will all be very tired Tuesday. I'm dealing with heavy equipment and electrical work Tuesday. That's fun. It's going to be a good combination. So, we will
We'll
talk to you
see.
all. Yeah, we'll talk to you all next week, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll be, electrocuted.
That's all right.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Later.
Later.
All right, I gotta run. I'll see
All
y'all.
right. See ya.
All right.